When I went to the Nightingale Centre after having the mammograms for my breasts, and I think at that point when they sort of called me in, I was absolutely devastated, very, very emotional, and it was quite upsetting for me. I had my family with me, my brother and my sister, they were there, and I think it was just, I don't know, I just felt for 1 second I'd actually been hit by a train. Instantly the first thing that came to my mind was, how am I going to get through this? I want to see my kids grow up. I want to be able to share things with my children. And I think it was ultimately those ideas that were coming into my head. I couldn't think about anything else. Everything else they were talking about was just oblivious to me. I hadn't taken it in straight away. At that time, I was then introduced to one of the breast care nurses who was very approachable and very sympathetic. I think she just sort of came across with quite a lot of literature, which I couldn't even bear to look at. I didn't want to look at. I think I remember at one stage when I was waiting around for the results after biopsy, and I just needed some air. I needed to get out, and I think I just went to the toilet, and what I assumed was the light. It was the emergency button, which I pressed, and then everyone sort of came panicking there, and I was just, I don't know, I just felt for that 1 minute I just wanted to be away from everyone. I just needed time for it to sink in, and I think at that time that's how it actually made me feel. The hospital were supportive. I think it was just a question of, obviously, as soon as you're being diagnosed, what is the next step in terms of how are they going to treat this cancer and what they're going to do. My tumour itself was quite a large tumour, and obviously it had to be shrunk through chemotherapy and then have to have a mastectomy. Everything sort of happened very, very quick. All I know is obviously having the diagnosis. My next appointment was probably about a week or two at Christie's, and that's where I was going to be told to have all the treatment. I just sometimes felt that I didn't actually have time to actually think about what was happening. It suddenly felt that nothing was in my control, and I had to sort of move forward with whatever the doctors were actually suggesting, and that's how it sort of came across. In terms of like the care, it was good. You know, I mean, Christie's were absolutely amazing. On obviously after the diagnosis, they sort of drew up some sort of plan. I also had an opportunity to meet one of the breast care nurses as well, so I obviously was told what to expect and what was going to happen. I think by that time it had sort of, I'm not saying it completely sunk in, but I didn't want to think about that. I wanted to try and fight this and try to get through the best way I knew how to. And that was with the support from the hospital and the support from my family. When I initially had my first treatment, I was absolutely, I don't know, bewildered. I was scared. I had never seen a cancer patient before in my life, and obviously the ward was completely full. I was just looking around for faces, and I was just thinking, you know, I don't want to be here. That's how I felt. But going through all that, I did feel a little bit on my own. I felt that things could have been better. I felt that maybe the nurses, especially the breast care nurses, who are obviously specialising with breast care, they should have made a little bit more effort to be around the ward, or to, especially initially in your first appointment, to guide you or be there, support you. It was a question of just getting through it, most of it on your own, really. So these are things that I think I would want to see to be made better. A lot more communication, and also a lot more communication with the patients and the consultants as well, because you know, it's okay talking about your treatment, but also to look at you as an individual as well, as a human being, and to obviously look at your feelings And these were things that weren't really sort of taken into account. And also, what does the patient want? That's what I think would be more beneficial. If there's anything wrong with the care they're providing, how they can change it, how can they make that better, how can they make each visit better. Each visit I didn't actually feel was any better, I just felt it was the same old thing. The frustration of waiting, leaving, knowing that I've been out of the house since 12 o'clock and I wasn't actually home till 6 or 7, completely washed out. I just wanted my bed, so I didn't even have any time to sit with my children to have any tea or even put them to bed. It's the time consuming, that sort of effort that I just think really needs to change. Even though it has been 3 years, I might look from the outside that I'm absolutely fine. Inside, I usually do tend to feel sometimes a little bit emotional about what's happened. Trying to come to terms with what's happened, try and live with what's happened and try and move forward is the only way that I've actually dealt with everything. And I think rather than sort of sounding ungrateful, I'm grateful for each day, and I'm grateful that I've actually got through the treatment, because I know for me the treatment has worked, and it's the reason that I'm actually here today. Yeah. I think the reason why I got involved with Macmillan Cancer Improvement Partnership is because I think as a cancer survivor or any patient that's actually been through cancer, they are in a better position to actually sort of explain what the situation is and how they've actually, what barriers and obstacles they've actually overcome throughout their treatment, what things have been in their favour, what things haven't. It's important to actually raise a lot more awareness of looking at the individual as a whole, because every survivor of cancer has different needs. Some are greater than others. And I think it's really important to actually get involved so that you're looking at it from a different perspective. You're looking at it from a perspective of someone who's actually been through the treatment. So rather than someone who's never had cancer,